Okay, I'm Andy Lee Graham, and I'm going to write a book. I'm writing a book called the Travel Strategies. Okay, and um, in a way, as a writer, what we need is a strategy on, like a outline on the chapters. Okay, so the average book maybe is 225 pages, but writing a book is not that difficult, okay, if you have kind of a formula. Okay, a lot of people just think they're going to just start writing a book, and that kind of works for fiction books if you're really a genius. Okay, but if you're writing a nonfiction book, like this is a nonfiction book, it's about my travels for 25 years in 114 countries, and I'm going to outline the chapters. Okay, I'm going to outline how I am going to create a chapter. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not a university professor in English, okay? I'm a writer that's written over 10,000 travel blogs, okay? So I'm pretty familiar with my style, my methodology, my process, the way I do things, okay? But what I'm going to do is right now describe it. Okay, so let's see if we get this in there. The word, so I got this is, I'm sorry about my writing. I'm not sure if some of these videos actually reverse the pictures. So this is the strategy. This is just basically saying what it is. But what we do is we have a title. Okay, so creating a title is a problem. We used to always, and I really recommend you don't make titles that are search engine optimized or clickbait or anything like that, because all you do is show that you're a person of no integrity. Okay, so if you want a readership, you have to have some integrity, but you do want to write a title that's a good hook. Okay, so there's words that hook you into what you're doing. You don't want to have a title that tells you everything. Okay, you don't want a title that basically makes it so a person can choose not to read what you're writing. So there's kind of a mystery to a title. So I'm going to probably always in this book have the term strategy in every single title. Now, where to put it inside the title is a question. Some ways there's a natural way of talking and there's an unnatural way of talking, right? So you want to have it sort of poignant and kind of hooked. So you got to say, is this title a wow? Is it hooking me? Is it giving me a mystery? Does it teach me? Does it take the reader and say, hey, let's read this, okay? So there's terms, and you can actually do on a Google search, and you can start with the word that you'd like to start it with, and it'll give you suggested on Google Chrome. It'll give you suggested in Google search. It'll give you suggested titles to search for. Sometimes that's good, but if nothing else, it gives you some ideas, right? But a hook. So what is the hook of your title? Why does that, you know, make you feel? Don't be logical. You want to make somebody feel. You don't want to make them think. You want to make them feel. First priority is feeling. Okay, snack it. God, we call this a snippet. I'm using web page jargon or terminology. A snippet is like the little phrase, like a three line um, introduction. In writing, you'd call it the introductory paragraph or something like that. And but in on the website, we call it a snippet. And it makes more things. A snippet is again not supposed to tell them everything. In writing, you got to be real careful that you do not give them an excuse to quit reading your article, reading your message, reading your chapter, whatever you. There's all these words, and we can get really hung up on words as writers, okay? But a snippet or opening paragraph. So I like to use epigraph because I call that an epigraph is like if I quoted Mark Twain and it was poignant and it's related to the thing, because that takes people into a comfort zone. Okay, a comfort zone is they already know that author, they already approve of that author, and it makes them feel, so you can jump on the coattail of Mark Twain or Einstein or Jordan Peterson or somebody, right? Some quote, and then according to the topic. Now strategy is different, so you're trying to get a person that is a strategy. Oh, I didn't put this here. Every chapter is going to have a photo. Okay, so the photo often would be better if you created the photo or the graphic before you started the chapter, because the photo really does take your vision and put it into words. So there's a process here of writing a chapter where it's a fight between the title of words and what you visualize, okay? I really recommend that everybody learn how to use a graphic program. I use one called paint.net, okay? It's free and it's great and it works perfect, and you don't really want to learn Photoshop or something like that, because that's for a person that wants to be a graphics person, okay? Okay, but you're going to have a photo that's related to the title, and it's all woven together dynamically. Okay, so we got the hook phrase. Epigraph would be a phrase. You don't have to do the epigraph. But the second thing, and the one thing I've learned is try to write one quotable phrase. Write a sentence that could be quoted, okay? Then quote yourself. Andy Lee Graham, so you write something that says, this is my story, this is my world, this is what I'm doing, Andy Lee Graham or something, right? Something quotable. And really sit and spend most of your time, maybe 25% of your time, thinking on that quotable phrase, because that is the lead-in. That is the temptation. That's the seduction of the reader, right? Okay. Now the body. And one of the things you'll find is that people really, they like to hear a story. They want to be entertained. So when you're writing, you have to accept and believe that what you're really doing is you're an entertainer. Okay, you're not a school teacher, you're an entertainer. A good teacher is a good entertainer first. So I want to, the strategy statement. Now I skipped to number 2. What you're going to do is have a strategy. Let's lower that here. So we got a story. So there's going to be some sort of personal story, real life story, always true. Be really careful about jumping them. Like 85 to 90, you're going to be competing with writers that cheat and create stories that are lies. Okay. Now you can borrow somebody else's story, which is probably the easier thing for you to do, because a lot of you may not have the experiences, right? But create a story and then tie it in like 2 or 3 little stories, and then you got bigger stories, and tie it in with the chapters. So I'm going to create stories like how I went to Iraq and how I dealt with the danger, how I took my mother with a bladder problem to Guatemala, different things, right? I'm going to tell a story, and I'm going to try to tie it in with a real life story. I'm in the United States, so this is easier to do because I can talk to people and I can really understand and empathize with what they're doing. There's going to be a strategy statement in this. I'm going to say the phrase, the term strategy is a kind of a strange phrase, because it doesn't, everybody thinks they can do strategies, okay? So I'm going to have to read it. I'm going to have to really define what strategy is in every single chapter. So I'm going to have a strategy statement there. And then at the end of the body, I'm going to have a conclusion where it's kind of a wrapping up. And again, you kind of try to write your second quote. So let's put that there. This is the second quote. Okay, everybody thinks that I don't think anybody writes with a complete formula all the time. It really kind of interrupts the fun. Okay, so I'm doing this in a way for my nephew Michael, because I'd like his constructive opinion. second quote. So you wrap it in a way, you can maybe take the first quote and kind of reverse it, invert it, whatever you want to call it. Okay, but at the end, we're going to have your quote and your title. So sometimes you want to repeat the title back down here. Now that is a SEO thing, search engine optimization. But three times, there's two things that I consider completely wrong. Okay, one is they say never be cliche and never be redundant. Okay, what you want to do is there's times when you want to be repetitive. If you have a difficult concept of a strategy is not an easy concept. So you might want to be repetitive and redundant at the same time. You're going to repeat the same phrase, maybe change it a little different ways. And you're going to put this through the body like 2 or 3 times. You're basically going to make it show up 2 or 3 times. The main phrase you want to push in the thing. Kind of the quotable, kind of the conclusion. Now, what I recommend when you do this is you write it really fast, okay? You don't just write the whole thing really fast and then go dissect it, okay? Now, I don't do that when I write a travel blog. I just write it, then I publish it, okay? Because I'm doing it for my own entertainment, okay? The problem you have a lot of things is too many people want to make writing a chore. It's not a job, it's fun. It's creative and it's things. So don't ever make the rules here overweigh the fun of what you're doing, or you're never going to have a style, you're never going to have a tone of voice, you're never going to have readership, because everybody knows you're just forcing yourself to write, and that's not going to be fun. Writing should be a revelation. It's how an expert teaches themselves to think. Writing is how we think. So you're thinking. As you can see, I've added some things here as I was doing. I'm doing this particular video so I can think. By writing it out, by making a video, I think. And I add all the little quirks. Because when you're thinking in your head, it's all abstract and it's really not think. By writing it down, you take an abstract thought in your mind and put it into words, and that becomes reality. Now you start owning the terms, or owning your words. Now don't get hung up on all these words. Use your own words that make you happy, okay? The last thing I'd ever want a writer to do is to be cliche in a way and follow the path of the teacher, okay? The teachers are teaching because they're not writers, okay? Maybe they are, maybe they're not, but what you want to do is find writers that you can copy, okay? Kind of figure out, like, I like to read fiction, but fiction is difficult to, I'm not going to probably ever be a fiction writer, but a nonfiction, there's newsletters, there's books. Try to figure out a writer that you trust, and you basically, the more you read what they write, the more you respect them. Okay, but we're going to repeat the phrase. So this is an outline of one chapter, right? So then you have to ask, how many chapters are in a book? Well, I think in a nonfiction book, you probably want right around 25 to 35 chapters. Now, according to how you write, some people write long chapters and short chapters. I'm going to write a very kind of a easy book, and I'm going to have to debate on how to do it. So I'll do the process. I can add or subtract chapters on this particular book because I have about 25 different strategies, and I can add. Then I could write volume 1, volume 2, volume 3. There's different problems with different words, but start working on your cover really quick, because you're never going to be happy. But what you want to see when you see your cover, you want to see a wow. Wow. Okay. You're always wanting the wow. because we're entertainers and teachers at the same time. Okay, I'm Andy Lee Graham. I traveled nonstop for 25 years and in 114 countries, and I've blogged or written little missives over 8,000 to 10,000 times. I really don't count these things, but if you mathematically kind of calculate, it's been about 9,000 to 10,000 times. Okay, I'm writing this for Michael. I'm making this video for Michael, trying to talk about the process of writing this book. It is in my YouTube channel called Digital Nomads Autodidacts. An autodidact is a self-taught person, okay, the person that teaches something. So the process of teaching is also a way to learn. By making a video, I'm teaching myself what I'm doing. It's how we think. Okay, join Everyday Hobo to follow along in my world.